Hello, and welcome to Performance Management. This section is on employee evaluations. Almost everyone complains about performance evaluations. Employees dislike them because they feel powerless getting a report card that is based on arbitrary, confusing, and sometimes biased factors. And supervisors and managers dislike them because they know that they may be forced to make decisions about an employee's performance with insufficient information. And then, after conveying sometimes upsetting news to the employee, must face him or her every day thereafter. Although the supervisor or manager may be told to do appraisals, and appraisals are a common management practice, almost every person has dreaded conducting employees' performance evaluations. Hopefully, this training will make it easy for you to conduct employee evaluations. There are 4 sections in this training: the evaluation process, informal and formal evaluations, writing up the evaluation, and recognizing and rewarding employee performance. Let's talk about the evaluation process, whether you call them appraisals, reviews, evaluations, or other name. All too often, evaluations are subjective, inaccurate, and unsatisfying to both the supervisor and manager and the employee. There are several reasons for this: bias, measurement imprecision, the form itself, and variations in personal grading scales and quality standards. Let's talk about a couple of these issues. The recency effect. Raters tend to focus on the last few months, so you need to make sure that you're collecting information over the 12-month period to ensure that it reflects the entire year. The halo effect. Researchers have long reported on the halo effect, the fact that employees who are perceived as above average in one trait earn higher ratings in other facets of their performance as well. The opposite is the horns effect, where everything the employee does is scrutinized if the manager or supervisor has a negative impression of the employee. Personal bias. Some supervisors and managers are biased to never give top ratings to any employee, regardless of their work, because of the supervisor's mistaken values or prejudices, or perhaps the supervisor or manager received subpar evaluations in the past. But also with regard to biases, it's part of human nature. Unfortunately, it is all too often a part of the appraisal process, leading to unfair, inaccurate, and sometimes discriminatory reviews. Another common problem is that supervisors or managers give everyone very good ratings simply to avoid hurting employees' feelings. Still others fall into the central tendency effect, giving everyone a score in the middle. If your rating scale is 1 to 5, giving everyone a 3 doesn't really take a stand or provide meaningful feedback on their performance. And the seniority effect. Other studies have shown that employees who have held their jobs longer, particularly in management, usually get higher ratings than other employees do. It's important that managers and supervisors take conscious, specific steps to avoid these common problems in writing up their evaluations. With all of these problems, why are performance evaluations an essential component of good management? Performance evaluation can have these benefits: help teams and individuals achieve goals by focusing on priorities of management. Improve communication and relationships. Sure, it takes time and is uncomfortable, but going through the process of evaluating someone's performance can actually bring you closer to your employees. Establish clear expectations moving forward. And reinforce the good performance the employee has demonstrated over the past year. You can also take steps to improve unsatisfactory performance and foster a spirit of cooperation and teamwork. The evaluation process can be an opportunity to motivate your employees and certainly reduce turnover and improve retention if done properly. Additionally, the process of giving formal feedback to employees lets them know where they stand in terms of job expectations, and it can help them plan their career development. Documentation of their performance helps the organization create a written record and thus obtains legal protection. And some organizations use it to justify merit raises or bonuses or the basis for a promotion. Certainly, evaluations give the supervisor or manager information to make decisions about staffing, training, resources, and other issues. And sometimes it gives the supervisor or manager feedback about their own performance. Performance feedback should occur regularly on an informal basis. When it comes to writing an annual performance evaluation, accurate and adequate documentation is critical. Some points to keep in mind are to monitor performance regularly, have one-on-one check-ins with your employee at least weekly, and make notes of the conversation that transpired. Let the employee evaluate their performance. Most organizations' process includes a period of self-evaluation to give the manager or supervisor feedback directly from the employee. Also, exchange feedback on how the job's going. Log events in your supervisor's file and collect examples of the employee's work, documentations, letters or emails of commendation, or anything else that is an important reflection of the employee's performance. Keep copies of reports like production reports or work in progress. And remember, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. So ensure that your documentation is thorough and accurate. Here are some tips for writing up the performance review. To avoid being challenged for violating federal or state anti-discrimination laws, it is essential that the basis for performance appraisals be developed by adhering to the following factors. Objective, particularly regarding subjective qualities. Yes, you can state your opinion, but you need to back it up with fact. Also specific. Avoid generalizations like always and never, and include details, facts, numbers, and examples. And legally defensible. We'll talk about the comments you want to avoid on legal issues. Objective. Performance must be measured fairly by using sound, objective criteria that is designed to foster maximum accountability. The underlying principle is that employees need to know in very concrete terms what is expected of them from the time they are hired and throughout their employment with the organization. Examples of objective measurements are fact-based and measurable. You can measure what was achieved and what was not achieved. Generally, they're going to be based on the job description or job scorecard. The opposite of objective is subjective, and those would be opinion-based or based on personal qualities or demonstrated behaviors. And this information is important, but it has to be anchored in fact with specific examples. Specific. Avoid terms such as sweeping generalizations like always or never. Also avoid labeling people like they are a great team player. Describe the behavior that demonstrates effective teamwork. Here are some examples of non-specific feedback. Instead of the person always does high-quality work, write this employee formats the correspondence so it is readable, finds misspelled words, and makes helpful suggestions to ensure correspondence is accurate and timely. Or a sweeping generalization like the person can always be counted on to manage projects well. More specifics, such as on the 3 major projects this year, the employee communicated the goals, revisions, and progress checks to others involved in the projects and coordinated their assignments so that the project was completed 2 weeks ahead of schedule and 20% under budget. Statements like the person is never late or the person demonstrates effective teamwork and integrity are not specific enough. Also, don't make sweeping statements like the employee met all goals for the year or they're positive, upbeat, and has a good attitude. Be more specific with your feedback and provide as much fact and evidence as possible. And to avoid problems with the law, you want to make sure that your reviews are job-related. They also reflect specific observable job duties or job descriptions and reflect the job standards that were clearly communicated to the employee upon hire or at the last evaluation period. They should also be based on job analysis and be consistent regardless of who does the appraisal or when it is done. Reviews must appraise on the critical aspects of the job. Also, you want to make sure that you're avoiding commentary that could be discriminatory in nature. For example, any commentary based on race, sex, color, religion, national origin, ethnicity, ancestry, disability, age, marital status, dependence, and also sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, or other state protections. Also avoid medical information. So, for example, if the person was on a leave of absence or they had received workers' compensation benefits, you want to avoid any commentary about that on their performance review. Also, avoid commentary about leaves of absence for FMLA or state leaves, or jury duty or military service. Those are leaves to which the employee is entitled, and that shouldn't be used against them. Finally, in terms of providing a legal defense, you want to make sure that your whole employee evaluation process is fair and consistent. Use the performance evaluation meeting to reinforce the positive and show appreciation. Recognize and reward good performance. Conducting the performance appraisal discussion. As a supervisor or manager, you are responsible for establishing the agenda of the appraisal interview and laying the groundwork for an open and productive session. Most supervisors and managers talk too much when they're delivering the performance evaluation. A better approach would be to talk about half the time while trying to ask questions of the employee and listening to their responses. An example might be, I'd like to talk to you about how the year has gone and how we can make it even better next year. Building rapport is important, so relax, smile, and be friendly. And conduct the appraisal away from your office or at least out from behind your desk. Try to sit next to the person if possible. Set the agenda and discuss the purpose, how long the discussion will take, and the process you're going to follow. Remember that the evaluation is a nerve-wracking event, and the more comfortable the person feels, the better the conversation will go. Start off by saying something like, I'd like to talk to you about how the year has gone and how we can make next year even better. Is there any place you'd like to start? You may want to start out by asking a question like, what went particularly well this year? Or, what challenges did you face this year? Getting the employee to talk is going to make them more comfortable. And again, you'll have a more productive meeting. When discussing primary responsibilities and key performance indicators, keep the conversation fluid, exchange information, discuss the job priorities, then your evaluation. If possible, have the employee present their appraisal first. If the employee has not done a self-appraisal and hasn't thought much about the evaluation, present your evaluation by quickly giving an overview. Then give the employee time to react. Take notes, encourage the employee to speak. Ask lots of questions. For example, what do you feel good about achieving this year? What would you like to have changed or done better? Are you having any kinds of issues with getting the work done? Those questions will encourage the employee to remain engaged in the conversation, and it will end up being a productive evaluation. Use the evaluation to solve problems together and keep the employee engaged in problem solving. Ask open-ended questions designed to get the employee talking as much as possible. When that's completed, then you'll want to establish commitments and agreements. Be prepared to request what you want specifically and without apologies. For example, what I'm requesting is that you take over the responsibility and keep me informed each week. Another approach you can take is to ask the employee to set their own goals and commitments. Then end on an upbeat note. Summarize the accomplishments of the discussion. Be positive about the future. As we've discussed, the evaluation process is a good time to reinforce, recognize, and reward employee performance. So yes, give them positive feedback and make them feel good about their job and their career. However, there are some limitations to the sandwich approach, which is basically to give them positive news and then the meat and then follow it up with some more positive news. The problem with that approach is that employees tend to remember what they last heard, and that if that's positive, then they're not going to hear the message that you wanted to improve their performance in some way. And don't wait for the formal evaluation to give them feedback if something needs to be improved upon. Use this as an opportunity to thank them and show true appreciation. Reinforce the unique traits that define them as employees. Reinforce, recognize, and reward their performance. And the focus should not be on compensation, although many organizations do tie their performance review to any compensation increases. This takes the focus off of their performance. In summary, utilize informal ongoing feedback. This is a great way for you to develop rapport with your employees and provide them with insights on their performance. But also write down every encounter that you have with your one-on-one meetings or any team progress meetings you might have. Remember to keep your statements about their performance objective and specific. And remember what we talked about in terms of avoiding potential legal issues, keeping any commentary off the evaluation regarding any protected information such as race, sex, color, religion, national origin, ethnicity, age, and so forth, but also regarding any leaves of absence to which they are entitled. Remember to keep the employee involved in the process by asking questions and talking about 50% of the time. If your employer has the process of a self-evaluation, start there and get a sense of how the employee feels about their performance. Prepare for the evaluation discussion by reviewing notes and records in the employee's file. And remember to use the evaluation process as a training and development tool, not as punishment for last year's deficiencies. Thank you. This has been a presentation of i2i Management Employee Evaluations.